Dr. Mix. Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Dr. Mix podcast, where we explain how things are done to produce music and mix it. This week, how to start a mix. So that was our little theme. We are in the Dr. Mix Lounge because that's the only available place we can do the podcast from, because every other room is busy doing mixes, in fact. I'm here with two people and I will let Aaron introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Aaron Dutt. I have a BA in audio engineering from SAE, and I'm the junior sound engineer here.
Beautiful. And Dom.
Hello, my name is Dom Segalas. I'm a music producer and engineer here at Dr. Mix for about 3 years now.
Yeah, pretty much.
3 years, wow.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Time flies, huh?
Yeah, so I'm also writing music for films. I'm a product specialist for Yamaha, and I'm also certified Steinberg trainer. So if you have any questions about any Steinberg products, feel free to ask.
And he is extremely good. In fact, I'm not going to go too much into details, but basically he turned everyone in the studio onto Cubase again, didn't you?
Well.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really proud about that.
But you were right all along. My name is Claudio Passavanti. I'm the owner at Dr. Mix. I'm a music producer. I've been for quite a long time. I have a degree in orchestral composing and arranging. I've been a studio cat for my entire life, essentially. And today we are going to talk about mixing. Because, all right, let's get things straight. The easiest thing to get wrong is the beginning, is the basics. So I'll ask Dom, what do you think are the first things that you need to get right when starting a mix? Let's begin from, okay, you have your arrangement done, whether you have done it yourself or somebody else has done it, and now you have your nice separate tracks. It's definitive. You're not gonna edit it again. What do you do then, Dom?
Well, to begin with, you have to have a good arrangement. That's always overlooked. But let's say we already have that. I think, one of the most important things is to basically, do your gain staging to begin with. So if all your tracks, when you sum them, they go, they clip, or they overdrive your master bus, then you have a problem to begin with. You have to fix that first. So I would say gain staging, just bring all your levels to a nice, healthy place.
Nice.
So I wouldn't pull down the faders, but I would try and do it with a different way, either by clip gain, or if your DAW has gain control for each channel. So you just pull this down.
So the moment that you have all of your channels up, okay, say that you have all of your faders up to where they should be, and what kind of headroom should I leave to begin with in the master bus?
Well, when your faders are all at unity, unit gain, so it's just 0.
Yeah.
I think a healthy level would be around -12. Would be a good starting point, so you can have enough headroom for your kick drums, for your snares, when your low end comes in, so you have enough headroom. At least I would say -12 is very healthy.
Yeah, that's good. So Aaron, what's just a little bit of insight on how we do Dr. Mix. Of course, we get large volumes of mixes. We get lots of music from all around the world, which is great, by the way. But of course, we had to we have to develop a way of getting things right from the beginning. So Aaron here is more specialized in preparing those sessions. Please, Aaron, can you take us through your typical action? You get the mix in, it's all separate tracks. What happens then?
Yeah, after we've got all the individual tracks and imported them into the session, done the gain staging like Dom's already talked about, you have to put them sort of into the order that you're going to deal with them and group them into stages. So obviously drums first, then your bass, then your vocals, then all the other instrumentation. After that, we sort of color code them, make sure the names are all correct, make sure that the tracks correspond to what they've been called on the actual audio track file. And then we start to put them into buses, so they're all collected together.
Right. I will expand on the buses because this is something that it's really important. What is busing? Basically, you've got all of your instruments, and you probably have your drums, and you probably have your percussion, and your bass, and your vocals, and your keyboards. What you want to do is you want to group them together for different reasons. One is when you have those groups together, you don't have to write each individual channel anymore. You can just write the whole section like you are, a music director. So you say, okay, here the vocals need to be louder, here the guitars take over, or here the drums have a little feel, so I pull up all the drums without having to actually move 10 channels or at one time. And that's one advantage. The other advantage is that I can divide and conquer. So if I'm using some compression on each individual channel, say that you want to get your your kick drum a bit compressed, we'll get into it later on. But you can introduce some compression on the channel, and then you can introduce some more compression on the drum bus, and then you can introduce a little bit more compression on the mix bus, which means instead of trying to compress everything at once, giving plugins or hardware very hard time, I am going to compress in stages. So that allows me to compact the sound more and more as I go towards mastering. It took a little bit long time. Sorry, Aaron. So I think I've touched on bus routing. And what do you do after that?
Yeah, after we've done the bus routing, we obviously make sure everything's color-coded correctly. We'll set up a parallel channel for the kick and the bass if they require it. So that's all good to go. That's ready for when we actually start mixing. So that everything's set up and we get all the preparation out of the way. And then when we hit the point where we need to start mixing, we can just go, everything's there, and we can bring stuff up.
Exactly. And sometimes we might use the parallel, sometimes we might not use it, but it's always good to have it there. I mean, especially for the bass, kick drum, vocals
as well.
Yeah.
Right. So what we're referring to is parallel compression, which some people will need explanation for that. We're not going to touch on it today. I am going to touch on it now, but we're not going to go into details because we don't want to overwhelm anyone with information. But the idea is to, instead of using a compressor to pass the signal through completely, we actually create a new channel that runs, in fact, in parallel, so that we can compress it maybe harder and just sneak in a little bit of the compressed signal along with the original one, so that we don't kill the original dynamic range of the sound, but we still have that sort of punchy, maybe a bit saturated core sneaked into it, which makes things more powerful. Because I guess it's about building the power of the mix as you go along. Can you expand on that, Dom?
Well, yeah, parallel.
No, I mean the idea of because I think everyone wants to get a mix nice and punchy and loud and big, but you get that in stage. So that's what I think.
I think it's exactly what you said. You can't force a mix to be loud. You have to work on it for during all the stages. So while you're working on a mix, you have to make sure that I want to make this loud. Or I want to make the kick drum be dominant in this mix. But I mean, you have to work in stages. If you just mix a track and you just try and slam a limiter in the end, it just won't work. You will find that you will have no room to make it loud. So immediately when it starts limiting, you will hear artifacts like distortion, saturation, bad saturation that you don't want to, and you will lose all the transients. So all your punch will get lost very quickly. But if you work towards that in stages, as you said, it's gonna work in the end.
Cool.
And that's really, really important. And
All
that's
right.
what most people get wrong when
Yes.
they're mixing.
Another thing that people get wrong is the filtering. Aaron, can you please explain why filtering is so important?
Yeah, filtering's really important because often there's sort of low-end information that you don't really hear. It's sort of rumbly, and that can just be cleared up and gives you more headroom in the mix overall, which is really useful because obviously if it's not useful information, you don't want it in your mix, you don't want it cluttering things up. And we sort of use a 48 dB filter on the low end on everything apart from kick, bass. Yeah, pretty much that. Pretty much anything that doesn't have much low end information, we'll filter and get rid of.
Yeah, and and then I would add that because the most energy is in the low end, meaning that it's very easy to saturate a channel with low end information. Maybe you raise your kick drum by 2 dBs and your master bus is full. Whereas if you raise your shaker, which is very high frequency information, by 2 dBs, the master bus is hardly gonna feel it at all. So that means that if I filter unwanted low end, not only am I making room for the real low end, which is bass and kick, but I'm also freeing up some space.
Exactly, because it adds up, right? So if you have low end on your shaker or your tambourine, you're never gonna hear it, but it adds as dBs, additional dBs of headroom in the master bus, and you just lose that headroom. Simple as that.
Okay, somebody might say, "Hey, how can a tambourine have low end?" It can, because maybe you have air conditioning, maybe you didn't filter the low end from your beautiful condenser microphone, maybe there is a car, and it's a very low rumble, and maybe you have small speakers and you might not notice that, but that's gonna eat up your headroom.
You don't need that anyway. You never need that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, this is something to be used very carefully. So, for example, that's very true for vocals as well, because you got, pops or, whatever. Sometimes music is recorded in less than ideal conditions, but you want to be very careful how you filter your vocals, because your vocals tend to be what, if not the most important thing, depends on the genre. But so you want to be careful how much you filter the vocals, because you might end up having it, a little bit too small. What other things do we do to prepare mixes? Can you think of something else, Dom?
I would say cleaning up. For example, you might have tracks. I mean, most EDM tracks don't need that. For example, if you're using synths, they're mostly clean. But if you, for example, have tracks with acoustic instruments like guitars, you have to clean them up. So basically, more than often we get tracks with, acoustic guitars, and you can hear the click track in the background, a spill from the headphones. So sometimes it's easy, so we can just, just clean up the track by cutting, editing it. But sometimes it's, on the actual, while the guitar is playing. So we have to do some, very sophisticated restoration to the audio, so that we don't lose any information, but we just get rid of the spill. So that's one thing. This is very, it happens very often.
All right. I would say that we can have just one little thing still about how to start a mix before we move on to the next section, which is Q&A. I'm looking forward to that. So what happens when, so we've labeled our tracks, we've made sure that they're all nice and clean, we've filtered out unwanted low end from it, we have done our gain staging, so we know that we have good levels to begin with, because the other thing is that plugins don't really like to be run too hot.
Exactly.
They don't like to be driven too hot. We tend to use a lot of hardware, but we are assuming for the for the sakes of Teaching?
You know,
Is this teaching? I don't know if it's...
it's like-
Well, we're going to assume that people are going to work more on plugins.
Yeah.
Because, not everyone is as lucky
Being
as us.
realistic, that's what it is.
Being realistic. I mean, we spend fortune on gear, and which is why, we have... sometimes we run into trouble because we spend a lot of money on gear. Why do we do that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
but
there's a very valid reason for that.
So yeah, in general, plugins don't like to be driven too hard. With hardware, it's a different story.
Yeah.
They can take
different.
a beating. But we got our gain staging right, and what happens on the master bus?
Typically on the master bus, we'll usually put a compressor straight from the get-go, just so the needle's just starting to move a little bit. So that obviously we're getting some control from the very start. Things are a little bit even. We're compressing from the first stage. Things are sitting nicely together.
That's also a precaution measure, because you can, if you start driving the compressor too much, that means you're mixing too hard already.
Yeah.
Before the mastering stage.
Yes.
So it's always safe that you still have headroom for your mastering as well.
That's right. I would say that the first compressor that we use there, which typically tends to be an SSL bus compressor, or it can be beloved thermionic culture Phoenix Mastering Plus, which sounds amazing, or the 33609 sometimes for more jazzy kind of mellow
acoustic
stuff. It behaves a bit better with some material, so it has a bit of a musical value, I would say, because it helps tell the story of the song. The song might have nice dynamic movements, but the compressor makes it a bit more cohesive, and it sounds like everything is making more sense on a musical level, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, go visit our website, drmix.com/blog. You can find a little recap of what we're talking about here, a few resources, few files, interesting information, and all the links. So go visit it. You're gonna love it. All right. So I think that we are ready to go into the next section, which will be Q&A time. I hope I hit the right button. Q&A time. I got it right, didn't I? Sorry, I mean, this is our first podcast, so forgive us if we don't get everything right from the beginning. Anyway, we've been very, very happy with the response that we had for this podcast since the get-go. And we've gathered quite a few questions. I apologize in advance if we can't reply to all of them, but let's try and get as many as we can. Let's do it, Aaron.
Okay, our first question comes from someone we've done a mix for recently, Damiano, and he asks, what is the most recurring error that producers do in tracks regarding to mixing? I mean the thing for which you damn composers every day.
I think Tom is the person for this.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the most, usual mistake that most producers do is they load their tracks too much.
Right.
So I think they're using lots of sounds, and because there are so many nice, plugins or synthesizers or amazing sample libraries right now in the market, you get tempted and use all of them.
Right.
in a track. Oh, this is a great sound. Oh, that's a great sound. Oh, I use that sound and that sound. But the key there is not to use all the sounds, but use sounds that actually work. It might be a sound that doesn't sound so good on its own, but in the track, in context, it works very well.
Right.
So, I mean, when we get for example, then if you add so many tracks and they don't belong there, they're just very hard to mix. And I think that's one thing. And basically, selection of good sounds.
Right.
That's the second mistake. So basically, when you have a kick drum and a bass, and basically it doesn't work, don't wait until for the mixing engineer to fix that. Just change the bass sound or change the kick drum sound. If you really like your kick drum sound, change the bass so that it works and they are one thing together. Then you will have a much better result than a kick drum resonating with the bass in a weird way and it doesn't work. Because this will be a compromise in the mixing state. For me, I think these are the worst things you can do for a track.
I agree that. And as an add-on, I would say it's easier to get better mixes with fewer instruments. So I mean, look at The Police, drums, bass, vocals, and guitar. Is there anything more powerful than that? I doubt it. So when you cram a million tracks, and this is of course it's genre dependent, but in general, it's easier to get a louder, better, punchier mix when you have fewer instruments. And also it's an exercise in discipline, to be a bit more, to go to the core of music rather than trying to cram stuff, maybe because you're afraid it's not enough. So it's a more psychological gesture. Anyway,
I mean, we've been about this before, Claudio. I mean, if your arrangement is good, you mix it as you go producing it, right?
That's right. That's right.
I think that's if your mix sounds good before you even get to the mixing stage,
Exactly. So that's for example what I do. I mean, as I am a Yamaha sponsored artist, I have the great pleasure of having all the Yamaha keyboards here. So the new refaces, for example, allow me to play the bass, but also because I'm listening to the kick drum as I play it, I might think, hey, maybe this clicking bass is a bit too much and it's kind of working against the kick drum. So I will just add a little bit of attack on my synthesizer so that I free up the space for the kick to hit first and then for the slow bass waveform to come right after it. So basically I'm sound designing as I am playing, which is ultimate mixing.
Yeah.
It's like when you have an orchestra and you write piano, pianissimo or forte, you're controlling dynamics. So if the singer is singing, you're not gonna go, horns, blast it. No, you're gonna write piano because now the singer is singing. So basically mixing starts from the writing.
Yeah.
So that I think that's a very important part because we're talking about music. Of course, we are musicians, but this is music we're talking about. So get it right from the beginning.
Exactly.
If we will take this long to answer each question, it's going to be the longest podcast on planet.
We're going to stop. We're just going to keep going.
All right, next one.
All right, a second question comes from another one of our regular customers, Simba. He asks, being newly introduced to electronic music and different types of synths, how crucial is it for a producer to be technical enough to create every sound from scratch and never use synth presets? Probably Dom again.
Probably Dom again.
Well, you put me on the spot, you guys. No, actually, I really like this question. Well, I mean, I think every one of us has been through this. I mean, when you start, you always rely on presets. I think to give a straight answer, I would say it really helps if you can do sound design, if you can do your own presets. Because of course you get to be original. Nobody else is going to have the same sound like you do, and sometimes they will try to emulate you. So you have this sound from these guys. Oh, how do I make this sound? Because it's an interesting sound. But I would say it's not like the end of the world if you don't know how to sound design. It just means that you will have to spend a bit more time browsing through presets and trying to find the correct one. But if you can sound design, then it's even better because you can find a preset as a starting point and just tweak it to fit your track. But if you can, of course, go into sound design by all means.
Cool. All right, next one.
Yeah.
Tony Ruiz asks, I'm a record producer for an independent bands in Mexico and Latin America with small budgets. I own a room and mix sometimes and master records for this act. I have a hybrid setup at my studio using Pro Tools and some outboard gear. Which summing box on a budget would you think is the best bang for the buck so I can get my mixes closer to the sound of a big studio?
Oh,
Claudio, what do you have to say about that?
what do I have to say about that? Firstly, getting a big sound, it's more of a matter. It's a matter of knowing your stuff, knowing what you're doing more than it is about gear. But given that you know what you're doing, gear can help a lot. I don't have a budget summing mixer in mind, because if it's a budget summing mixer, it's useless to have. We have the best one. We have the best one, which is the Thermionic Culture Fat Bastard, which I love. And the reason why I love it is because, number one, it has a saturation knob, which is called Attitude, and it gives great sounding saturation on it. And then it's got like a Pultec style equalizer, which gives you great bass and great top end. Having said that, I know that Manley does a great one. There's an incredible one from Chandler. What else is there? Great summing mixers. The Chandler.
The Dangerous Music stuff's quite good as
The
well.
Dangerous Music stuff is very good. It's really good. I guess I like if I have to go outside the box, I like things that color my sound, because otherwise I will stay in the box.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, the next question is from Himanshu Chola. Hope I didn't mangle that too much. He asks, which is the best technique to mix the vocals without keeping the overall music low?
I'll say a quick one. Saturation. Saturation and control of the mids. Because mids is, where the perception of music and speech is. So I would say that. Would you say, Dom?
I would say a really cool trick would be, well, that's a bit advanced, but sidechaining the mid-range.
Great one.
You know the vocals sidechain the mid-range of the instrument. So basically, when your vocals hit, when your singer is singing, then your guitars have a little dip in the mid frequencies, so it leaves some room to the vocals. It seems like they're embracing them, but then when the vocals stop, they go up, immediately. So you have the perception that the music is still loud, but the vocals still cut through.
You know what? I'm gonna give you a little round of applause, because that's
dude, that's low.
Dude, wait, where is it?
Dude, that's low. Dude, that's low.
All right. Okay. Moments of comedy at Dr. Mix. And all right, I would say let's do what, maybe the last question. I think there was
two more small ones.
Two more. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. The next question is from MC Magic, who is
Woo,
good
MC
friend
Magic.
of us.
We love MC Magic. Hey, MC Magic,
We
go
love his
check him out.
mixes.
Go check him out on YouTube. Sorry.
He asks, which single piece of gear would you recommend adding to a simple DAW home studio that can help me acquire loud, punchy, warm mastering?
Ooh.
I said small ones, I lied.
All right. If you have to go outside the box and get some piece of gear that is gonna give you something, I would say go Valve. I have a soft spot for Thermionic Culture, so I would say the Thermionic Culture, the Phoenix mastering compressor. That's what I would say.
Oh,
Dom,
so many
what?
options. One piece of gear. That's really hard.
You can come up with it?
There's so many of them. I don't know. I mean, look, if it was like a few years ago, I would say and I hope I won't get
in trouble.
Nailed. Yeah, in trouble for saying that. I would say the finalizer.
That's
the
a good one.
The TC electronic finalizer. That's not a toy. It's a really, really serious piece of gear, and it can it's dangerous because you have to know how to use it. It's really deep.
Yep.
But I mean, it's really good. Even nowadays, it's fantastic.
I couldn't agree more.
It doesn't have valves, but it sounds really good.
Yep. Very good point. Well played. Last question?
Last question comes from Christian Valdez, who is another one of our regulars. And he asks, I would like to know how exactly the rhythm edit works and how you do it. It really makes a huge difference in music.
Hi, Christian.
Hi, Christian. Good to hear from you. Yes. Rhythm edit option on Dr. Mix means that we will take your drums. Firstly, make sure that it lands correctly on the downbeat if that's what it needs. Because sometimes bands play live music, but maybe they play on the click, but they're not so good at it. So we help them be right on time with Elastic Audio or the Cubase equivalent, depending on the programs that we use. And then we do drum layering. And drum layering means that we reinforce the sound with samples, and we can do it in different techniques. Sometimes we just map the MIDI information for it, and we add sounds. Sometimes we like to use Steven Slate's trigger, which is great. Also, it maintains the phase on kick drums. So basically, we can completely change around drums from being bad to being good. And this is a bit more advanced technique. It takes time, and that's why we charge a bit more for that.
I mean, it's sometimes trigger work. Sometimes we need to just take the note information from your actual audio and turn it into MIDI. I mean, you have to have amazing libraries to make this work. So you can't use just any drum samples. And we also spend a lot of time finding the correct sample that matches your actual snare or kick drum. So it's a it's a long process. It's not easy. It's really advanced.
Fantastic. All right. So having said all that, we have come to the end of our weekly show. I hope you enjoyed this. Please get in touch with us. Visit us on drmix.com. We can really help your music. And remember to subscribe to our mailing lists. We'll make sure we have a little link for that. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much. You want to say goodbye, Aaron and Dom?
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. See you later.